The following discussion is intended to provide a perspective and is not intended as professional advice. These are merely things I have found useful. Please consult a healthcare professional for advice on proceeding. Hi, and welcome to the next episode of After the Abuse. In this episode, we'll be dealing with the subject of the shame-blame game. We'll look at this in two parts. First shame, then blame. Dealing with shame. Many who've gone through abuse, physically, sexually, especially as children, experience shame. Many can be surprised just how much shame that they're carrying around. In preparation for this episode, I looked up an article in Psychology Today that has to deal with survivor shame of those who've been abused physically and sexually as children. I'll put the link in the down bar. The article had a questionnaire. It had 35 questions that you answered yes or no to. And then after you do the questionnaire, you total up how many out of the 35 questions that you've answered yes to. I was actually surprised at how many I did answer yes to. It's a way to gauge just how much shame that you're feeling. I recommend that you go and do this questionnaire. Let's assume that you've done this questionnaire. Now you realize just how much shame that you're carrying from this abuse. What can be done about it? Basically, the best way to counter shame is with self-compassion. There are many different ways to practice self-compassion. One way that they suggest in the article to practice self-compassion is to think of a person who's been compassionate to you in your life. Be it a relative, a friend, relative of a friend, whomever. Or if you can't think of anybody, imagine a fictional character from a book, TV show, or movie that you think might be compassionate towards you. Now imagine that you have the ability to become as compassionate towards yourself as that person is to you. Try to imagine what they would say to you when you're feeling the shame, and say that back to yourself. The blame game. How much blame is justified when you've been abused sexually as a child? Is any? Let's take a look at my own experience as an example, and then we'll analyze that. When I was 6, there was one day I was over at someone's place. They were babysitting me, and they had another boy that was around the same age as me. And we were playing out in the front yard because it was a really, really hot July or August day back in '87. The neighbor boy comes over and says, you know, it's really cool in my basement. Why don't you guys come on over? My parents are home. It'll be fine. So we didn't see any problem with it. Didn't think to check with the boy's mom that was babysitting us. She'd fallen asleep. So we went over and we go in the door, and his, I believe it was his dad or his uncle or somebody, was quite upset that we were there, obviously because they were in the process of making child pornography. So we went in there and they separated us right away. So from looking at this, how much blame or guilt is justified on my behalf? I wandered off without asking, so yes, there's a measure of guilt. Does it go further than that? Once I went in that door, was anything that happened truly my responsibility? As my therapist would no doubt say, who was the adult in that situation? Well, it was the adults. I was only 6 years old. So everything that happened from me going in that door beyond is on them. Then there's those parts of myself that say, I could have resisted, I could have cried out, I could have tried to run away, do something to stop them. Well, as I look back at what happened, I actually did. I cried out for help. No one came to my rescue. I tried running away. My escape was blocked. I tried resisting. I was threatened with violence on another. Honestly, what more could I have done? And while I'm sad, yes, very sad recollecting this, I can find nothing that I could have done differently that would have made a lick of difference. So how much blame or guilt is justified on my part? Wandering off. That's it. While it's true I may still feel that guilt and that's something to work on, you know, intellectually I know that I'm not responsible, but, you know, in my heart, it's a process, and that's the process of therapy and talking it out with someone. Some find it helpful to write things out in a journal. Whatever works for you. You've got to work with a therapist or psychologist. That's all for today's episode. The next episode will be the interview with Michael Broussard. Have a good day and take care of yourselves. If you're looking for resources on helping yourself or someone else who has gone through abuse, you can visit rain.org. Or, for resources specifically for men, go to oneinsix.org. If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, please call one of the numbers in your area on the screen.